leaderboards because it is an open deck this tournament. Now we're in this top 8. Players have access to what the opponent is playing, and it's going to be Hunter versus Sack, Golgari Yawgmoth versus Izzet Breach. I'm huge on Yawgmoth. I'm huge on there's a lot of changes that has happened to this deck. Talk me through these.
Yeah, so we see the Golgari Yawgmoth player who is going to be sporting a lot of cards from the new set, the Lord of the Rings set. We talked about Delighted Halfling, the One Ring, and Orcish Bowmasters, all present here in Hunter's deck list. And the Breach deck, this is actually not the Breach deck that we saw last round. The more traditional, kind of more popular versions as of late have been the Jeskai combo-focused version. This is, I guess you could call it old school in the form of just kind of fair value Breach. There's no combo, really just trying to set up a Breach and draw 4 or 5 cards, which, I mean, that sounds pretty good. You like drawing cards, Will, right?
I like killing my opponent when they've got a lot of cards in their hand. Remember, I'm an Infect player. I'm also a Yawgmoth player, and this feels great. Being on the play, putting up 2 huge walls, and just stone raining this Ragavan on the other side. You know what I mean? You don't want to connect, sure, I'll throw my wall in front of it. The question is, do I throw my 0-5 or 0-4? Because one will die to a lightning bolt, one will die to no unholy heat if they choose to go that route. But
I
this is
would just double
start.
block. You just fire off a double block there.
Okay, I like it. I like where you're at. I like where your head's at. Why not? We're going to come down with another Dragon Age channeler here. Kind of setting up, and this is people don't kind of see this about the Yawgmoth deck. They think it's like this combo deck. It does have the beatdown element, right? But the secret to beating Yawgmoth is its life total. Like, I suppose that's kind of obvious. That's how you win most games of Magic. But the higher its life total, the quicker it's going to be to combo and off, right? I'm kind of stepping on your toes a little bit here, but I really am a Yawgmoth player, and I love this deck through and through, and I know all the interactions.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. The card Yawgmoth, you do need a certain amount of life total to be able to activate it, given that pay 1 life is part of the sacrifice activation cost to be able to start drawing cards. And, like you mentioned, if you're able to pressure the life total and whittle that down, even every single point matters against this deck. It really is going to, it'll make it so Hunter is able to draw less cards once they are able to deploy a copy of Yawgmoth. And pretty good start here mana-wise. We have a ton of mana here on the 3rd turn for Hunter, is able to deploy a plethora of cards here. Could have a Gris, could have a Ring, could have a
no. We're at the end of the turn. We passed the turn untapped.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We didn't play anything on our 3rd turn. We missed a land drop almost. But no, I'm gonna.
Yeah, no, this is Hunter's 3rd turn.
I thought we were recording. I'm gonna.
Oh, okay, I see.
All right, I'll wind it in, but it's fine. But again, Strangle Root on the battlefield. And no, again, great blocker when on the other side we've got something like a Ragavan or a Dragon Age Channeler. It's able to block, comes back. Almost an absolute nightmare for these kind of burn removal kind of decks where they're going to have to they got a 2-for-1 themselves to get off the battlefield, basically. But it is open deck list. They know they're not playing down, dress down, at least not in the main. There is 2 in the sideboard. So we don't have to worry about that.
Right, and typically from the Jeskai side of things, sometimes with the Jeskai Breach decks, you'll maybe see a copy or 2 of Prismatic Ending, but given that this is just Izzet Breach, there's not any copies of that card, so no clean ways to go ahead and answer this, guys. As we see a cord for, I believe, 2. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think it's 2. I think we use both walls for the mana value to cast a Strangle Root, and we're going for 2. Yep, to get the Bowmaster, to get. Oh, I love it. I love it. And we're doing this while the fetch is on the stack. So while they fetched, we get to play around Spell Pierce, which we know that there's 2 copies in the main, because again, open deck list. Cord, Bowmaster, taking out the Dragon Age Channeler before any spells can kind of manipulate the top of the deck while it's just a 1/1. Love it. A lot of time for this.
Yeah, just an absolute blowout there. Like you mentioned, the responding to the fetch, just very, very good sequence here from Hunter, is aware of the deck list, the Spell Pierces. And yeah, that Bowmaster just taking out the Channeler, and also not only playing around Spell Pierce, but wants to do it before a spell is able to be cast in response, because the Channeler would be able to surveil. So you could potentially, if maybe you say cast an instant and then put, I guess you can't really get to Delirium, but just denying that extra surveil trigger, very important here. And Bowmaster is not only obviously kills the Channeler when it enters the battlefield, but the fact that it makes 2 bodies, 2 blockers for this Ragavan, as if it was going to be hard enough to attack with Ragavan, you're basically never attacking with that thing.
Here comes an Unholy Heat. That's going to get the Bowmaster off the battlefield. That's the RC promo art currently. Do you like that one? And how are we going to fight? Now we're going to start drawing extra cards. Makes sense doing it in this sequence. Don't want to be growing any more that is it a mass army? We're calling it.
Yeah.
Is it an army? Yeah.
Orc army.
An orc army. I don't know if it was a mass. A mass is what we used to have. Now this is especially a mass the orc army. Don't know where I'm
Yeah.
going with that. Let's
No,
move
no,
on.
no. You're correct. You're correct. All right. We'll see Hunter take a draw step here, getting in for some damage with the Geist. Exalted Trigger. Get it in there.
And that's just another one. Another, card. We used to have the other hierarch. Now we've got Ignoble hierarch. Just suits these decks so much better. Especially again being an infect player. Now I get to play my Golgari kind of colors. It does it. And there's another chord. Is that double chord in hand?
Might have been.
So we can chord now. Oh my god, we can chord for loads here. We can get a Yawgmoth.
A lot. Yeah, we definitely want to get a Yawgmoth. We saw the Strangleover Geist there, and Zach, knowing that the Ragavan is not really worth much else, just gonna go ahead and trade for the Strangleover Geist, which comes back. And when you're from the Yawgmoth's perspective, you have to be pretty happy when you get that trade to happen. But yeah, this Yawgmoth is it's gonna be worth a lot of cards. I can't count that high.
I got some trivia for you. Who was the first person to 5-0 league with Yawgmoth?
Because you're asking me, I'm going to assume that the answer is Will Hall.
Spot on the money. Spot on the money, my friend. It was the deck looked nothing like this, but I kind of hold that. That's my little claim to fame, if you can call it that. But this card it is really, really good. It is now on the battlefield, and this is what it does. Right, it looks like we've only got one card in hand. At any moment's notice, we can kind of refill it. Advantage bar hardly to our left. We need to start casting some unholy heats and getting things off the battlefield.
We can draw 8 cards, because we can go sack token, counter on Geist, sack Geist, yada 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 yada. So yeah, basically Hunter can just at any moment just go ahead and pick up a brand new hand. And Expressive Iteration's good, but I haven't read the text on it recently, but I don't think it says draw 8 cards.
It definitely does do. Normally, when you've got a Yawgmoth in play, that you've got a few more land. If we do sack everything, it would be pretty bad for it. But we've seen this card. It's banned in multiple formats, especially the ones that are being played this weekend. Because remember, this is Pioneer and Legacy with a modern chaser that we're watching now. It is a super powerful card, mate. And I also used to play this card wrong. That's how good I am. I used to play it on turn 2 and go, this card's not very good. Why is everyone going on about this card? I play it, and then obviously it's like, no, it's a turn 3 play. Well, learned that one the hard way. That's why you're sat in the expert seat, and I'm just here waffling about infect all day long.
And Yawgmoth.
As we're going to start, and Yawgmoth, as we're going to turn it all sideways and try and get connect for that is a beautiful 6 points of damage.
Yeah, and we mentioned early on at the start this breach deck not being able to set up a combo. This is kind of the fair breach version, so there's not really any worry of Zach untapping and comboing out of nowhere, which you would normally associate with a breach deck. And Underworld Breach does draw quite a bit of cards, but it still just does not compete with the amount of cards that Yawgmoth provides.
We've also got to worry about if that last card in hand is a Quarter Calling, it could just be game if we tap out. Like it realistically would be a very high win percentage of game if they do tap out. That's got to be on their mind. How can I play around that? Do I need to try and dig for cards with it? It's all to play for here. We're going to see. We're going to start off the turn with a Ledger Shredder. Talk to me about this one. Why do we see Ledger Shredders in these decks and the follower of Breach? I suppose it answers itself there, but.
Yeah, Shredder is particularly powerful in this deck because there's a lot of cheap cards, all the 1 mana interaction and the 1 mana creatures like Ragavan Dragon's Rage Channeler, cantrips as well, and then Mishra's Bauble. So a very common turn 2 play here is you go turn 2, play Ledger Shredder, and then play a Mishra's Bauble immediately after that. As we see in Endurance, just go ahead and blow up the graveyard in response to this breach. And
absolutely backbreaking. And that is the one of in the deck. So again, open deck list. They know that there's only one that needs to play around, and unfortunately for them, it was in the hand. It was in the grip. We're going to shuffle up this library. We're going to put it to the wrong. I'm going to shuffle up this graveyard. Put it to the bottom of our library.
It's one of those things where if you're on an open deck list, right, and you see that your opponent has 1 copy of Mana Tithe in their deck, are you ever playing around it? No, you're just going to jam into it, right?
You're right. I am. Yeah. Better players, maybe not. Maybe they get better reads than I do. I'm. Do you have it? Cool. Guess I'm going to win. You have it? I'm super blown out then. But again, it's another body, though. It's another beater on the battlefield. It still comes along with a 3/4 body, potentially another sacrifice if we need to. And Yawgmoth has got that little hidden text that says proliferate on it. A lot of these creatures are starting to get counters on them.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily want to proliferate the wall of roots because that I think that would
well,
not
that depends. You know what I mean? Like how big your kahunas are, let's say. But now we're going to go for it. I like this. We're tapping. We've got 2 green mana if we need to play around Spell Pierce with the walls. So this is going to be a cord for 2. I guess it's going to be another Strangle-Root. It could
Actually,
be.
isn't the Zulaport just lethal? Or Bowmaster. I was wondering if Zulaport was just lethal because you can essentially like sack token to target Geist, sack. You know what I mean? Like I wonder if we had lethal with just the Zulaport.
Let's think. What? But yeah, because Unholy Heat wouldn't do it to get Yawgmoth off the battlefield.
I guess you could Unholy Heat or bolt the Zulaport in response to the first activation, and
Oh,
maybe
hold.
that's enough to save you.
I love this. So with the the Bowmaster trigger on the stack up to a mass, we're sacking the first one with Yawgmoth to get triggered. Then the second one resolves, so we get another. This is brilliant. I love this.
Yeah, Yawgmoth's super powerful with Bowmaster, like you mentioned, just being able to kind of reset the token, and you can just kind of just keep going here. Yeah, this is a lot.
So we get rid of the +1/+1 counter because that's how it kind of layering in stacks, and then we put a -1/-1 counter on it. Here comes Lightning Bolt targeting the Bowmaster. We're going to sacrifice that in response. Put another -1/-1 counter on the Ledger Shredder, and that is going to die. And every time we're doing this, we're still drawing more cards. That's
Right.
the crazy thing about this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why Yawgmoth is so messed up. Not only do you just get to kill all of your opponent's stuff, you're drawing a brand new hand in the process. And yeah, I don't really, I mean, like I said, we don't want to call games too early, but it's going
No,
to be
I'm calling it.
really, really hard for. Okay, if you want to call it, then I'll call it. That's fine.
I'm calling this one. This is something I've been learning from Corey. He says I don't call games early enough, and I'm going to say this one's over. Even more so as we're about to drop to 1 life as a big swing for, I believe this is 10, is going to come across.
Math checks out. That's
We're going to
actually 11 'cause
sacrifice it. We're going to
yeah.
bring it back with the Undying. That is 11 Exactsies. Well played by Hunter there on left your screen, taking down game number 1. Looking on our backup matches, look like Rakdos Painter has managed to take down their game. So we're going to move across to the Pioneer. That one's going to still be playing. Let's have a little look what's going on there. We're going to have Spirits. Oh, apparently everybody's sideboarding, so we're going to have conclusions of all those games won. That we're going to get that updated for you all. I don't think I need to tell you or chat how much I enjoy watching Yawgmoth. And we saw why there. The new inclusion of these cards. We didn't see the One Ring, but we've seen that enough already. Let's be honest, this weekend or just in general.
True.
But we saw how good Bowmaster was there, and being able to utilize how good Bowmaster is with Yawgmoth. And like just knowing those like little triggers, knowing that you can sacrifice your undying creatures, get them back to get that extra plus on counter, and did the Exactsies. Super well played there. Got to love it. Are you impressed with how Bowmaster's kind of putting up results in the format and being able to squeeze itself into multiple different decks?
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised how well it was doing over the first couple of weeks. When I first saw the card, the main attraction was Legacy because of the presence of Brainstorm and all the
Mhm.
extra cantrips. And I think a lot of people kind of associate the card advantage spell in Modern of Choice being Expressive Iteration, which does not actually draw cards, so it doesn't trigger Bowmaster. But even outside of the like your opponent drawing extra cards to trigger the Bowmaster, just in specifically Yawgmoth making 2 bodies and being able to pick off an early creature is just so massive because those 2 bodies help you not only get extra cards for Yawgmoth, but can also be food for Cord as well.
Yeah, as you say, it's great in there. And also, there's a card. I think it's all right in Modern at the minute. That tends to draw people a lot of cards. So
Mm,
being able to have some sort of resilience to that, almost will kind of double tax their life total by having a Bowmaster out. It can be quite good. Let's say it's an okay card. I think it might see a bit of play at the Pro Tour. Might not. Who really knows?
we'll
But
have to find out.
we didn't get to see it in there. But Delightful Halfling. Right, like it's a new 1-drop we've seen. It's got a few more upsides than your traditional like Birds to Paradise, which is we're seeing just straight up gone now. This has replaced it in a lot of different decks. We're seeing it in the elemental decks. We're seeing it now in Yawgmoth. Why are we seeing this card more?
So the biggest reason is the fact that it has 2 toughness as opposed to 1, like Birds of Paradise. The one of the more popular decks in the format right now, being that 4-color control deck, sports 4 copies of Ren and 6. So having a mana dork that doesn't die to Ren and 6 is extremely important when you're on the draw against Ren and 6. And the uncounterability also very important. We've actually, as far as I remember, we haven't seen a ton of Murktide this weekend,
No,
and I
no.
think a lot of that is due to the fact that this Delighted Halfling is pushing counterspell decks kind of not necessarily out of the format entirely, but it is punishing those counterspell decks because it makes stuff like Teferi and Red and 6 in those decks uncounterable. But in the Yawgmoth deck, having the actual card Yawgmoth uncounterable is important alongside Grist as well.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm actually seeing that, there's a lot of Magic being played now. The new set's out, and we're actually seeing the Murktide decks kind of going down in popularity because of potentially because of this card making counter Magic a lot worse. And also on the Yawgmoth side, because it's got that extra toughness, that means I can target it twice with my -1/-1 counters. I can draw my 2 cards of this. Where with a Birds, it'd just be one and done. This gives me that extra little bit of value, which is sometimes is the nick of a game or losing and winning. And we'd love to see it. Plus, it comes in all the alternatives. I'm one of those crazy people that are trying to get one of every card in the Lord of the Rings set in full art and foil and stuff, and I'll get it framed and put it on my wall, and it'll just sit there forever, and I'll be the only person that ever cares about it. But I do like it, and I think it just fits in this deck. A lot of cards that have been printed recently it's made Yawgmoth. It wasn't really a deck. And now with the Modern Horizons 2 coming out, and now we've got the Lord of the Rings set, and now it's an ever adapting deck. I love to see it. And I'm getting the green light. The Pioneer is good, and we're going to be able to get down to that matchup. Remember, players are able to look at each other's sideboards now. This is open deck list. They know what's in the 75, what their opponent could be playing around. And this is where the mind games are going to start happening. Are they bringing that in? They might think I'm bringing that one in, so I won't bring them in. I'll bring some, I love this aspect of open decks. Personally, casting and watching, I love open deckless tournaments. Being an Infect player, I hate open deckless tournaments. I don't want people to know that I'm on Infect. But realistically for this, I think it's really, really cool. What about yourself? Do you like open deckless? Are you more on the side of open deckless playing in them, or do you prefer playing it in closed?
It's tough. I think on the balance, open deck list leads to a little bit less non-game. So, like for example, if you don't know you're playing against the control deck and you keep a hand that has 2 or 3 fatal pushes in your opening hand, or vice versa, you're playing against the burn deck and you keep an opening hand and one or more Thoughtseizes. So, I think that open deck list in a general sense lead to more non-games, which less variance. I like that. So, I think I'm a big fan of it.
Cool. Well, it looks like the players have just drawn the opening 7, so let's get down to them. Let's see how they're going to be going about this. Another one, when we're speaking about the open deck list and closed deck list sort of stuff, I think there's a crazy stat out there in the metaverse somewhere that mono green in closed deck list tournaments has got a huge win percentage opposed to it being in open deck list tournaments. So it's interesting how some decks can thrive and some decks don't in these open metas, and it looks like Spirits lost game 1, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, so they get to be on the play here. Traditionally, Spirits used to be a terrible matchup for mono green, but that got shored up recently, right?
Well, it's tough. So play draw, obviously, we're in the Pioneer format. Player draw is gonna matter a lot. So the 3 seed being in the play. So our green player wasn't the play game 1. That definitely has a part to do with it. But as you mentioned, the most recent printing here for the Green Devotion decks is the Pelucranos card. I forget there's a lot of Pelucranos. I think it's like Pelucranos Reborn or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But it's 4/5 reach, and the fact that it has reach is one of the more important parts against Spirits because it's a card that you can play on turn 2 to get under a Spell Queller, given that they won't have enough mana to play the Spell Queller. Yeah, Reborn, that's what it is. So they won't be able to Queller it if you're playing it on turn 2 off of an Elf, and it is just able to shut down the entire offense of the Spirits. The Spirits player, the most common way that you lose as a green player is like exactly this: Mausoleum Wanderer or 1-drop into Curious Obsession, and then just take over the game from there with all that card advantage. But if you play a Pelucranos, you can just easily just have that Spirit down in check.
We're literally seeing Spirits do what it wants to do, right? This is what it does on the tin. It gets that early threat down. We've got a way to keep drawing our cards each turn. We've got the tempo value of things like Spell Queller, Counter Magic, keep them mono green off that Devotion, keep them off these big explosive turns while we keep getting that chip damage in, while we keep refilling our hand and having this mana. And the advantage of being on the play. We're literally seeing it. If it was the other way around, the Devotion side on the left would be a lot higher, means that they can cast 2 to 3 spells a turn. It's Evan coming up kind of Millhouse here for Marty.
Yeah, this is basically the perfect draw. Like, turn 1, Mausoleum Wanderer, turn 2, Enchantment, hold up. I believe we held up the Geistlight Snare on turn 2. And then turn 3, attack, play a Spell Queller. It doesn't get any better than this. Then we even have a portable hole for the Land of Elf, excuse me. And yeah, I mean, like you said, you don't want to call games before they're over, but I mean, this one looks pretty over to me.
It's a lot of tempo happening here. This Khan's going to definitely get. This is actually my favorite art of Khan. If I had to have a favorite art, it's the one I use because I think it's the ugliest version of it, and I don't want to play nice versions of that card. So that's what I play as. We're going to refill our hand a little bit more. having a second Curious Obsession come down. So now every time that connects, we will get an extra 2 cards to our hand if we want to. And of course, we always want to.
You see, I like the old frame, but I just don't like the fact that there's no planeswalker symbol in the bottom right. You know, it's kind of like the old school, or it like tells you the words, what it says on it. I do like the old frame though. I can appreciate that.
Oh, I don't want anyone to appreciate it. I just want that card to look rubbish and ugly. But I say I'm a mono green player, so I have to play it. I think mono green's a very cool deck, especially in Pioneer. Not too much against spirits, and you don't get to cast many of your spells, as we're seeing this game. You called it. I'm pretty inclined to go with you here. This is a lot of flying damage keeps coming across. That's 6 damage connecting. 2 more cards being drawn. We've got all this counter magic in our hand. We just need to keep hitting our land drops, hold up this counter magic, and we're going to get ourselves to a game at number 3 really quickly, I imagine. Devotion count is 4, though. So Nick versus Jen a little bit extra. Here's 5. Here comes down a Cavalier. That's countered, and we're scooping it up. That is a real quick game. I feel like traditionally that's how it should go for the Spirits matchup.
Yeah.
But again, draw, play, super specific. But I think the modern table's just getting into the knitting grit. So we're going to move across to a modern table. If you just tune in, this is going to be Yawgmoth versus Izzet Breach. It's not the combo version. It is more a value engine, kind of like a Delver variant, so to speak, as in just lots of very efficient blue and red cards with breaches in it. And we're catching, it looks like an endurance coming down just in the nick of time of emptying that graveyard.
Yeah, and we saw the Yawgmoth player was able to kind of the biggest thing that we want to talk about in this matchup was the Yawgmoth player does not have to worry about any sort of combo. This is the fair breach deck. So, as far as the sideboard is concerned, do we get any help there? So, looking at the sideboard, you mentioned the copies of dress downs; those will certainly be coming in. Past that, there's not a ton here. The one copy of Fury could be coming in, maybe the copy of Unlicensed Hearse, but not a ton of upgrades here. I assume you're the Yawgmoth, the player in this regard. I assume that you like this matchup here from the Yawgmoth side, right?
Oh yeah, like I've got more Durances to bring in. They're definitely coming in. We've got Force of Vigors. I feel like there's a card already exiled. I'm trying to look there, just below the at the bottom of your screen. It looks like we've got 2 cards next to each other, and then one kind of turns sideways. So potentially already a Force has been cast.
I think it's a
But
grist, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense.
I'm about to say, but what are we exiling for Grist? That's but I'm sure it'll work out. But here's a Blood Moon coming down to shutting us off green mana. We do have a swamp on the battlefield, but green is pretty important for our deck. We do have 3 forests in the main, and okay. I don't even know how this layering works.
I was going to ask you the same thing, Will. I'm glad you don't know because I don't know either.
I think it taps for red. I think it's a mountain, but also a 1/1. But chat will tell us. Chat knows everything.
This is like layer 575.
It's a 1/1 mountain, yeah. So I think I've ran into this problem before, shall we say? But this is another reason why I'll be bringing in these forces. I think I've got targets for force. Anyway, looking at the sideboard, I know there's going to be Blood Moons. I know there's going to be Hearses. Potentially, there could be EEs looking at this sideboard. So I would have been bringing in the Force of Vigors. I don't think we're going to be flying in blind to it. But not ideal when we need to hit forest playing a Dryad Arbor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this Blood Moon is really kind of a haymaker here, really crushing for Zach here because, like you said, Hunter only has access to black mana right now, does not have any green, and really needs to find a copy of Force of Vigor to be able to answer that Blood Moon or potentially a forest. Let's do a quick Besiege you check. How many copies of Besiege are we looking at? There are 2 copies along with 3 forests, so kind of has to find one of those, or maybe the Ring. The Ring is also a card you can cast under Blood Moon.
Yeah, true. So that obviously, if the Bowmasters are in there, we can still cast them. Chat's asking about the Yavimaya in play and how that works with Blood Moon, with layering effects. I'll let you take this one.
Blood Moon does trump the Yavimaya. Don't ask me why, but I know that for whatever reason, it might be a layer thing, but the Yavimaya is considered a mountain under a Blood Moon. Therefore, it does not have any other abilities besides tapping for red.
I would say that's a win there for that Dryad Arbor being able to get in front of that Ragavan. Again, we've seen how powerful that card can be and how far quick it can run away with games. So being able to use potentially our land drop to get that off the battlefield is pretty good. Because if it starts connecting, generating those treasures, then we start seeing Zach being able to double spell in his turn. And well, let's be honest, we're not far off that anyway. As a Fury comes off the top, these are cards you don't want to be seeing as a Yawgmoth player.
Right.
Fury is a backbreaking at times.
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe if Hunter had a copy of the One Ring, wanted to keep that Dryad Arbor around to be able to cast it because we do need 4 mana. But doesn't look like there is a copy of Ring because likely would not have traded for the Ragavan in that case. And yeah, you mentioned the Fury. I would have to imagine Zach would have fired that off if we had a fifth land. We just go land 5 Hardcast Fury, kill the Endurance. So I'm guessing might not have a fifth land in hand and is going to go ahead and unholy heat this Endurance.
Well, it looks like we do have a land, but obviously it's going to come and play untapped. It is just going to be a basic mountain into a Hearst, but it does give us 2 targets if we do draw a force. Okay, we're going to have
Ooh, we
a
drew a
might.
forest. All right.
Forest turns on the might. The might exiles the blood moon. We're back into it now. Everyone's got forests. The combo's kind of semi-shut because obviously there's this Hearst is on the battlefield, and this it's problematic because it exiles 2. And ideally, you want 2 to be able to go off with Yawgmoth. And you obviously, while the trigger for Undying is on the stack, we'll be able to exile it, and we're just going to start chipping away at it now. And this is the problem.
That forest, massive top deck here for Hunter. Like we said, just needs to be able to get back into the game with being able to cast black spells and green spells. Can't quite get a good look at what Hunter has left over in the hand, but now that we're able to cast spells, I'm sure that we have something here. There's a breach here for Zach, and funny enough, the Blood Moon got exiled off of the Haywire Bite. That's actually incredibly relevant here because could have just played that off the breach.
Correct. I think that's 4 red spells. So not ideal for Hunter because his best way to get into this is playing something like a Wall of Roots or just seeing if the coast is clear first with a Fortsies. Interesting one to be bringing in. I do like it. This is another advantage of playing these in the sideboard being traditionally a creature combo deck, being able to clear the way. I'm not sure what you want to take here, though. What do you think?
Probably Fury. Depends on if you have an answer for the breach. Okay, we are going to go ahead and take the breach. My guess is that means there may or may not be an answer to that card in Hunter's hand. Because the Fury seems a little difficult. Where if you one of your best cards here is the card Yawgmoth, and Fury being able to take care of that Yawgmoth and leave behind the 3/3 body is a little tough. But he's going to go ahead and take the breach there, which kind of does make sense.
Yeah, there's a nice new one as well from March to the Machine. Pylon is started to see a little bit of play in Yawgmoth. Remember that's a cascade removal spell that does have a little scry effect to it. And here's the Beseiju taking out the Hearst. That's going to deal with the last 2 cards.
So we
Ramped them
did
a little bit.
We did have the answer for breach in hand, but we wanted to use the Beseiju to take out the Hearst. That makes sense.
I like it. We just need to kind of refill our board. And now will Zach fire off this Fury early to get a creature on the battlefield, or is he going to be patient and hold it and see if Hunter kind of progresses the board a little bit with potentially Wall of Roots, Young Wolves, etc.?
Yeah, it's weird. Both players know about the Fury, right? Because Hunter saw it in the hand, so maybe does not it Hunter is not going to necessarily play into that. Like you're not going to see the 2 deleted halfling pass or like deleted halfling into Hapatra or something. So, you're almost in a spot from Zach where it's like, yes, my opponent knows about this. Maybe there's a chance that I should just fire it off. Especially with Hunter at 15, like you kind of want to get the clock started as well. We did mention that Yawgmoth does need quite a bit of life to be able to utilize that as their resource.
Yeah, it's kind of like both players are throwing the sideboard cards out. We're getting answers on both sides, but Zach is turning and burning, sculpting that hand, getting what he needs, hitting each land drop. That's going to be an engineer explosives to hand. Consider is going to go to exile and the land to the bottom. We're going to fire off this Consider. Do we like that top card? Yes, we do. Looks like a Ledger Shredder.
Okay.
You definitely need to tap the land better though, because that's a fetch
Oh yeah,
that we're
yeah.
tapping.
We can't tap the Flooded Strain. The Blood Moon is no longer in play. So if we could maybe have them pause, or we can get a judge over there.
Oh,
The
the
Yavimaya.
Yavimaya.
We missed that. Okay.
Oh,
Never mind.
love it.
We're good.
No, I love it. I love it. Players know what's going on a little bit better than we do on our tiny little screens in front of us. It's all good.
Hard to see the lands. I think the Yavimaya is behind the forest, so it's hard to see that it's actually Yavimaya. We're good though. We're good.
Here comes a cord. Going to get ourselves a Young Wolf.
It's been a long day, Will.
You're telling me it's currently 1:45 in the morning for me. It's early days. It's fine. But we'll be back again. Remember, if you're just catching this top 8 now, there is Legacy all day tomorrow. When NRG will be coming back to you with all day 5K Legacy events. So make sure if you're into that, you hit that follow button. Make sure you get the notification when they go live tomorrow. Me and Devin will be back for you on that one, doing the evening shift yet again. So hopefully we see you all there. As we're just going to kind of advance our board here on the Yawgmoth side.
Oh, I can see the Yabamaya.
We see it now. That's it. Now it's been blatantly obvious and we've been rinsed in chat about it. Yeah, sure. Well, how are we going to do this? Again, because the ledge show's on the other side, playing 2 spells is also kind of bad for us. Grist is going to come down. Love this card. Love all the flavor and the text of this card. And I'm going to ask you, how many times have you cast this card?
A few. I mean, I've dabbled a little bit with Yawgmoth over the past couple of weeks too, especially with the ring. I had to try it for myself. One thing I will say, I cannot play Yawgmoth on stream. It's really hard to. The deck's hard enough as is, but trying to do that while managing chat, not possible for me.
Mine was Han Scales. Could not
Okay.
do it.
Yeah.
Like, I felt everything I did was wrong. And I mean, chat was always like, "You missed lethal." I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on right now. But with Grist and the tick up, it's got this unique little thing that if you hit another insect goes to the graveyard from it, you get to redo it, use the activated ability yet again. The most I've ever done this is twice. I managed, because Grist is an insect, so I managed to hit 2 Grists off the top of my deck before and get like multiple triggers. I've never done the full, get the full play set in a one-er, unfortunately, but
So
lot.
you've not dabbled with the Changeling deck, then I see.
No. I haven't played that deck. No. That's a YouTube video deck. If I've ever seen one in my life, I don't think we're going to see that taking down any challenges anytime soon. As we're going to see, Yawgmoth is going to be sacrificed. We're going to get off that Ledger Shredder, because remember, Grist is also a removal spell, as well as being able to flood the board with little 1/1 insects if we want to go that route. And then the last card we're going to play for turn is this Yawgmoth. Real nice opportunity for Fury.
Yeah, I was just going to mention both players know about the Fury, and we kind of talked about this earlier, where Hunter didn't want to overextend into the Fury, but we kind of gave Zach a pretty good Fury turn, and we're even going to start with the Shredder to be able to loot. Wow, this is a really good turn here for Zach.
Great, so we're going to get the extra trigger here from the Ledger Shredder. Lets us scalp to our hand a little bit better and leave Yawgmoth on the other side with just a nice little 2/2 wolf. We do see that it looks like mono green Brandon did not manage to pull it back against the Azorius Spirits, and Marty managed to take it down 2-1. So now this matchup and just the legacy to go. Remember, we are in top 8. This is open deck list. Lots of money to play for, a lot of points to play for, and a lot on the line for whoever managed to get to the top and get those free invites directly to the end of year tournament. 25K with PT invite on the line, as we're just going to play the wall and pass it back.
Yeah, this has been a really good game. We saw the Blood Moon on turn 3 for Zach, when Hunter was able to rip the forest, find an answer for it in the form of the Haywire Might. Really been a nice back and forth, and then that Fury is what appears to be the turning tide here. This looks to be a chord that's being cast. So we're going to find off of that.
Okay, are we getting to the point where we're going to have to start calling this? I think we're very close. I'm trying to think of the line. It's not out of the realms of possibility where you've got a couple of creatures and lands in your hand, but your opponent on the other side have sculpted their hand quite a bit now. There's a good chance there's counter magical removal on the other side. Yawgmoth, not great, because our life total is a bit low.
Yeah, it's like, what's the plan here for Hunter? Where do we even go? Where do we got to start with something? I guess you maybe start with a Yawgmoth. You could maybe go like play Yawgmoth. You could put the Young Wolf on the Fury before damage, sack the Wall of Roots, put a counter on the Young Wolf. Maybe start there, but I think that's where it has to start. And we are lining up 4 mana.
I was thinking maybe that Grist might have been the route that we wanted to go. Kind of make some, because that can make an infinite blockers potentially for the Fury, but Yawgmoth is also going to be up there in contention of what we need to do to get back into this. It looks like it's going to resolve, but it looks like, before it resolves, we're going to get rid of this Young Wolf.
Yep.
And then it's probably going to eat the Unholy Heat, I guess.
Yeah, bolt the Young Wolf in a response so that there can't be any shenanigans with sacrificing the wall to put a counter on the Young Wolf. And then, looks like we have Heat, Flooded Strand, and the Fiery Lotus left over. So probably going to sacrifice that first. Maybe try to find another removal spell. think Fury might just be, or Fury or some other way to kill the Wolverines might just be lethal.
This is what
Depending.
I was thinking about. If I do the Unholy Heat end of last turn, we then get to the we get to trigger and kind of cycle away the land in our hand potentially, but doesn't matter. Super far ahead here. This is a Lightning Bolt and a Unholy Heat in hand. 2 damage coming across. Is that how we're going to end here?
Potentially.
We could obviously.
I wonder if we maybe have the life totals incorrect, because I don't know if we updated it after an attack.
I think
blocks here.
I think they're right. I think this is very close to lethal. Obviously, remember there's a fetch on the battlefield. Yawgmoth every time we sack it, which is what we want to normally do. We do lose life. Unholy Heat. I think we're sacking it in response. Put the -1/-1 carrot on Fury. And in response to that, we're going to Unholy Heat it. Yeah, that looks like what's happening.
I think it was the Shredder, yeah. So you went block the Fury before damage, sack the Wolverines, put a counter on the Shredder. The Yawgmoth got Unholy Heated. See, big draw step here for Hunter. See if we can find.
Okay, there's the Halfling.
Not a great start.
It's a blocker. It's a blocker.
It is. Yeah.
It's not great. Especially as a Lightning Bolt in hand. And if the life totals are correct, we just sequence our spells correctly. I like this. Because remember, there are instant speed things on the other side of the battlefield, potentially endurances and chords of calling.
Yeah, so you can just bolt the Halfling, get 2 triggers off of Shredder, and that would be, as far as I can tell, 7 damage. But maybe you're in a position where you don't even need to go for that. Here's a Bowmaster.
Okay.
Let's make some more chump blockers. Could be a good start.
I think I like this, right? This is the reason we didn't fire off that Lightning Bolt. Again, patience. Everyone in this tournament has been playing so well, so patient. I suppose that's why they've all managed to get themselves into this top 8.
It's weird here because depending on what you want to kill, if you respond to the Bowmaster trigger, if you want to kill the Bowmaster, you have to let the Bowmaster trigger 2 more times because of the 2 Shredders. So it might be more beneficial to cast the bolt with the Shredder. Yeah, okay, we're going to do that. Bowmaster still in the stack. We're going to bolt the Halfling so that the Bowmaster will not trigger off of these 2 Shredder Knives. That's a heads up play.
Yeah, I like it. We get to get rid of this. And I think we've drawn an Unholy Heat off the top and a Ragavan. And yep, Ragavan's going to go to the bin, leave an Unholy Heat left in hand.
Yep, so not quite lethal, because even if you Unholy Heat one of the creatures, there's still one to chump block the Fury. That's going to be 2 damage, putting Hunter down to 5. But like we talked about earlier, the Yawgmoth deck is really, really it needs a lot of its life total to be able to utilize the card Yawgmoth. And when you're putting this much pressure on them, like, yeah, here's one of the best cards in Hunter's deck, but how much is it doing at 5 life?
Okay. So we're trying to trigger both these Ledger Shredders. Do we want to, in response, fire off this Unholy Heat?
I would imagine.
I also think this is a good play.
And also wants the Heat now before the Bowmaster token comes into play, so the Bowmaster token cannot be sacrificed to the Yawgmoth.
The Bowmaster, does it become? It comes in a 1/1, and then both triggers make it a 3/3.
So it would be 2 Bowmaster
right?
triggers. So it would come in as a 1/1, and then the second trigger would give it a counter. But you could also just go resolve the first Bowmaster trigger, sack the token, and then resolve the second Bowmaster trigger, as we saw earlier. So you would basically get 2, like get a 1/1 second, then get another 1/1.
Also, we know that they're going to be empty-handed after this. Last thing we want is them to draw more cards. So 2 bubbles at the top, going to grow both Ledge Shredders by 1 power, and that, yeah, we're scooping it up. We ain't coming back from that one, so that we get to get a game at number 3 here. And if you look at the bottom of your screen there, it looks like Grixis Delver managed to also pick up the W. So it is all going to be on the modding seat. Who is going to be able to take this down? Yawgmoth gets to be on the play, but obviously sideboards are huge in this. And we saw then how good Blood Moon is, how good the Hearst is going to be, and then cards like Fury on top of it. Could be a real uphill battle if the cards line up correctly for them, and especially with we could say the new Mulligan rule. It's pretty old by now, but with the latest Mulligan rule, the Mulligan rule we currently go by, it really helps in these decisions. Like, how many cards would you sideboard down to try and find those key cards?
You mean how many cards would you mulligan to?
Yeah. Like, would you like if you keep it open? It's not great. It's workable. It functions, but it's not got like these almost houses of sideboard cards in. And I remember you on the draw. Would you sideboard down, or would you just play it as it comes?
Well, it kind of depends on the specific sideboard cards. So if the sideboard cards that we have access to from the breach side of things, there's not like a haymaker like you would normally see a Leyline of the Void against Dredge or a Stony Silence against Affinity. There's nothing like that. It's more so just marginal upgrades, additional removal spells, stuff like Dress Down, the Fury that we saw. So you're not going to want to mulligan too hard for those. You're going to want to just kind of keep a hand that has a functioning couple of removal spells, maybe a threat, maybe a cantrip spell. We're not really going for like the specific haymakers like that.
So, I'm literally just looking, and it looks like there was only one Fury in the sideboard, and obviously
There
that's the
is,
one
yeah.
they drew. There's only one Hearst. They drew that. There are two Blood Moons in there, but we also know that there's Dress Downs, Engineer Exposures. There's a lot of cards we could be bringing in, and this is kind of a big problem. I think people, especially when they just start getting into competitive Magic, they start over sideboarding, right? Like there's a good chance there's like 10 good cards there, but are they better? And if they do bring in those 10 cards, they're going to dilute their main deck. How do you kind of combat these sort of problems? Being you're an experienced player. How do you kind of decide that you don't over sideboard, or make sure that you don't over sideboard?
Kind of depends on what your deck is trying to do. Like in this specific matchup, or like the deck that the breach deck, we'll take that for example, right? So the breach deck has a lot of interaction, a lot of removal spells, lightning button, holy heat. So what you're doing is you're basically just marginally upgrading those. So you're not necessarily diluting your deck by that much. You're just getting some small upgrades here and there. So like you said, you brought in maybe a couple blood moons, maybe one or two dress downs, but past that, you don't want to board in a ton. But like, when you're playing maybe the combo version of Breach where you just can't afford to sideboard a specific number of cards because that would dilute your deck too much and we wouldn't be able to combo, it's a different thing there. So with this deck, you can sideboard a little bit more liberally because you're not really changing the deck's game plan that much.
Okay, well, it looks like they're already kicking off, so we're going to move straight down to this match. They're firing off. Remember, everything on the line here. Who's going to advance themselves, get themselves into the top four? We're starting off with the Halfling on the left of your screen, and then a Bauble on the right with a Fetch Land. So we obviously did a little Bauble Scry trigger that we spoke about earlier on. Quite common to see in modern Magic these days. It's been happening. I think the earliest like that kind of was happening was around. Did Death Shadow used to use the Bauble Scry trigger back in the back in the day kind of?
That's where it started. Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny because modern Mishra's Bauble has been in modern since its inception. Mishra's Bauble was a card that was printed in 2005, maybe 2006, and modern started in 2011, 2012. So, but people were not playing Bauble in modern for the longest time until people realized they started putting it into Death Shadow decks with the fetch lands. That's kind of what that's where it took off.
Okay, so see, interesting here. We play the Wall of Roots and just hold up that 1 mana instead of potentially tapping our 2 mana and getting in there with the Halfling. Reasons behind this? I think we're about to see it, but
Yeah,
I
looks
was
like
trying
we're
to
gonna
set
go
you up.
ahead and tap. Yeah, we wanted to go ahead and play another Wall of Roots. But yeah, we wanted to do that. Go ahead and play the second Wall of Roots, maybe deploy some more mana, potentially setting up for a Court of Calling, and we will have to see. Well, we're still doing more stuff.
And here comes the little Mike comes down. Again, that one-off Fury is just sat there in that hand. We're a little ways off casting it unless we want to evoke it out. But I think
You only
on the
need one
Yawgmoths,
copy.
that is true. One copy does a lot of work. Right now in this battlefield, it wouldn't do too much. You just get like the smaller creatures off the battlefield. The walls are 0/4s currently. Remember, that is a -0, -1 counter that they gain. We don't really see those counters too much in Magic anymore. It is kind of unique to see that. 2 cards in hand, but a big grip for Zach here. A lot of red. I think on the Yawgmoth side, you want to see more blue cards in your opponent's hand than red, but
Especially with the Halfling in play, you don't really
oh
care
yeah.
about the blue cards that much.
Oop, now we're going to show them that we have that hand, and then we're going to ditch this. When your opponent starts ditching iterations, how strong is their hand? That card's huge, and it is going to take out these two smaller 1/1s or 1/2, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's weird because this is a spot where we saw Blood Moon do some work for Zach last game before we were able to find the Haywire Mite to answer it. But this game, there's a Forest in play and 2 Wall of Roots, 2 forests actually. So Blood Moon, even if that's a card that Zach kept in, not going to do a lot this game. You see the Gris get countered, but Zach is missing land drops, and missing land drops when you pitch an expressive. There is a second copy, so really gonna try and help to find some lands here for
Yeah,
Zach.
we got one. Plus, we got a cantrip if we need it. But the walls are, I guess, I say down, but we know that there could be things like spell pierce, and there's a force negation in the board, as well as Fluster Storm. If that, I don't think this is the matchup for it, but all force negation really. It's only going to counter things like evolution and chord, because Grist has got that lovely text that says in every other part of the battlefield it is an insect except for on the when it's in play, which again another unique thing for this deck.
Yeah, can't force a negation it. If that card is available for Zach, we're gonna go ahead and
Lightning
take a
bolt.
yeah. We're gonna go ahead and take a draw step. What are we gonna find here? A Ledger Shredder, and it does have a Lightning Bolt and multiple copies in hand, but with it Wall of Arts being 0-4 is not really a good target for that to be able to target, or excuse me, trigger the Connive.
But Hunter's not doing anything. And this is kind of strange. Like obviously we've got some instant speed threats. We've got the Bowmasters if we need to, as long as they're still in the deck, endurances, quarter calling, but not doing anything for a full turn and just passing it back again. Here comes a Strangleroot. Not saying that we drew that for the turn, but I'm pretty sure we drew that for the turn.
That's a start. It's something. We gotta get. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what could be in Hunter's hand. I mean, the most logical explanation is a bunch of Yawgmoths because we don't have access to double black right now.
That makes sense. I do like also Hunter on the other side respecting Lightning Bolt here, not using the walls. Just you kind of try and use your walls as much as you can in Yawgmoth. So you get the max value out of them, but realizing that Lightning Bolt is a card here and keeping them at 0-4.
Yeah, and then if we take a look at Zach's hand, like you mentioned, there's the two copies of Lightning Bolts. I think I saw a Heat as well. Here's a Dress Down being fired off. I wonder when this is. I wonder if this is second main phase or end step.
It might be why the Strangleroot's on the stack, right? So it comes into play, doesn't have haste, and then dies. I think that might be how it is, because the Dress Down isn't sticking around, so it wouldn't have been an end step thing.
Right, and that's why we didn't see the Shredder trigger because you need the Dress Down to resolve in order for the Strangleroot to not have abilities. So once the Dress Down resolves, then the Connive never happens because the Ledger Shredder doesn't have abilities when the Dress Down's in place. So that makes sense.
Yeah, Dress Down again, another card you don't want to see on the Yawgmoth side, especially if it gets followed up by a Fury. You feel real bad when that happens. But open deck list, we know that the one Fury is now gone. That is in the graveyard. Potentially, this is a breach deck. If we do get a lot of mana, there's a chance we can do it. And I think a Hearse was drawn and is in the grip now.
Chat does bring up a good point. A couple turns ago, but we could have actually gone let the Strangleroot case resolve, Lightning Bolt, hold priority, Dress Down. That could have been a way to trigger the Shredder, but in any case, that is not the case. So we'll see an attack here at the Shredder. We have an Endurance that's
Ooh.
pretty good, but against the Shredder.
Again, it's got that lovely little text saying reach on it, but it does not say uncounterable. So it does eat a counter spell. I'm not going to say that's an ugly whiteboarded one. I'm not a fan of the whiteboarded cards in general, but
That's 6th edition? I think it's 6th.
all right, Boomer. I have no idea. You know what I mean? Okay, we're going to start tapping a lot of stuff. It looks like we've got a swamp off the top that gives us access to our double black that we needed so we can kind of get this Yawgmoth on the battlefield. We've seen 2 counter spells already. And because we have an open deck list, we know there's only 3 in the deck. So as you said, just play into it. But here's an Unholy Heat.
Gonna take care of the Yawgmoth.
That tells me there's other Yawgmoths in hand as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and we talked about their Hunter having a lot of cards in hand for so many turns without deploying anything. Finally picked up that black mana, was able to deploy one. I would agree with you. There's very likely a second Yawgmoth, at least a second, maybe even a third.
Now it's time. Do we want to use these Wall of Roots? I think you do. I think they're already in Lightning Bolt range. We know there's no Fury that we'll be able to do some crazy sort of mop up here. And yeah, I think they're agreeing. Here it comes. Does this
Shocker.
resolve? But look at the other side. Look, Lightning Bolts, Unholy Heats for days. Now we might start seeing some Wall of Roots getting sacrificed.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on here. Hunter does maybe have to be a little bit careful life total. So we're going to go to 14. If the bolt gets fired off, maybe you bolt the Wall of Roots, trigger the other Shredder. Okay, we're going to sack both Wall of Roots to the Yawgmoth.
Mm-hmm.
Start there.
I think you need to. I think you just need the cards right, to try and get back into this. Your opponent's got more cards than you, got a better board state than you, got more lands now than you. And here comes a Hurst. This is a card that's kind of shocked me, just in the fact that it sees as much play as it does. Obviously, it's format dependent, meta depending on if it's some of your better graveyard hate or not. But it also can be a huge threat the longer it sticks on the battlefield, right?
Yep, and that's exactly why we see a lot of people playing it in multiple different formats. The fact that you get the graveyard hate aspect of it, and then later on when your graveyard, typically with a card like Tormod's Crypt or Leyline of the Void, once later on in the game, once your graveyard hate is maybe not useful, if your opponent is doing other stuff, then your graveyard hate is offline. That's not the case with Unlicensed Hearse. You can start attacking for 6 or 8 damage with that thing.
Here comes a Bowmaster, and in the battlefield, have the trigger on the stack, and I think I'm guessing that's a connive on the. It's a 1 blue mana, and I can't. I consider, sorry, not a connive.
Yeah.
Can't quite see it. It's just off the screen for all.
Responds to the Bowmaster, so we don't get the extra trigger for Hunter. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the counters in the Shredders are not +1s. I think they're -1s from the
-1.
right? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
they're
Yeah,
-1s
that's what I thought.
currently. But that's something we might want to be triggering our Ledger Shredders now before it hits the battlefield.
Yep.
So we get the gone.
It's a little awkward though, because if you have a removal spell, you kind of want to kill the Bowmaster, but if you let the Bowmaster resolve, then you're taking more damage. So it's a really weird spot for Zach here.
What have we got? So we know there's 2 removal spells in hand. Plus, that's on the stack. They do have a few cards in hand. I think there's 3 cards in hand for Hunter. Yeah, this is an interesting turn. Or
Got a bolt in the heat for Zach. So it looks like the Bowmaster has potentially resolved. I thought we considered did we not consider? Oh no, I got it wrong. The Consider was cast. The Bowmaster was cast in response to the Consider.
Yeah.
I see. That makes more sense. Got it.
And Besage you to do with. Okay. This is looking a little bit better here for Hunter. In response, we're going to exile 2 more. That's going to be the Endurance and the Grist. And these things that get exiled, they're not just nitty gritty. You know what I mean? There are Endurances in the deck. This is one of the ways that Yawgmoth can win. You know, it targets itself with the Endurance and keeps turning and burning through its deck. So, you know, exiling these key cards, which are Endurances, which are the Yawgmoths. This is not just nothing to sniff at. Not just just exile 2 random cards. No, we're targeting the cards that kind of matter.
Yep, and we see a Yawgmoth here being cast. Bolt is being cast. I'm guessing that's going after the Bowmaster, potentially going after the token. Although, yeah, I imagine you want to kill the Bowmaster here. The token's slightly more of a threat because with the Shredder being an O2 currently, can't actually block that 2/2. So 2 damage going to come across here.
This is not the last. We're in the top 8, ladies and gentlemen. This is the top 8, and then we are going to be giving you all the matchups through and through. So we are currently in the quarters. Then we're going to go to the semis, and then we're going to bring in the finals. So a lot more team magic to be seen. So if you strap in, get yourself a cup of coffee, sit down, do what you need to do, and just enjoy this beautiful magic that we see in Pioneer, Modern, and Legacy.
Yeah, good sequencing here for Zach. Does go ahead and kills the Bowmaster first before bolting the token to go ahead and trigger the Shredder. Puts a counter on it, which is essentially going to, wash out the -1/-1 counter that was there before. And we're kind of back at a pretty even board state, right?
Yeah.
You see, 14 plays 12. There are a couple, I guess, 2. The second Shredder makes things a little bit more favored for Zach. But, I mean, this is going to come down to who top decks better.
It's impressive. 2 turns ago, I would have been in advantage bar fully to the right of your screen. Zach looked like he had a grip for the cards, good board state, hate cards. But Hunter, give credit where it's due. He's managed to get himself back into this game. Very timely cards, doing what they need to do, deciding that, turning walls into cards is worth it. And it's got himself back in the game. It's not just, we're not going to get super overrun like it looks a couple of turns ago.
Yep, and the Bowmaster was able to trade for 2 cards, and that's that's basically how Hunter is sort of back in this game. Is the Bowmaster required 2 answers from Zach, an answer for the 2/2, an answer for the Bowmaster itself. I wonder. I can't tell if there's some sort of maybe life total discrepancy, and that's why players are discussing here. But yeah, this the second shredder is on the stack here, and I'm not sure what we're discussing here.
While they're discussing it, let's just remind people at home. Remember, this has been a team event, but tomorrow the NRG we're going live yet again for a 5K, and that's going to be Legacy all day long. So if you are a fan of the format Legacy, you are going to enjoy tomorrow. So make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you got the little alarm bell going off so you know when we go live. We'll be starting off in the morning shift. I'm not entirely sure which two casters are doing it tomorrow morning, but I definitely know which two casters are doing it tomorrow afternoon. That is myself, Will Hall, and the good old Devin O'Donnelly, better known as Doomwake. We're going to bring you the last, I guess it'll be like 4 or 5 rounds tomorrow of Legacy. So any Legacy decks you want to see tomorrow? Anything? What's your deck of choice?
I'm a big fan of the initiative deck, especially with the new card, the Fourth Lingus. I've been loving that deck, playing a little bit of it on Magic Online. So I really hope we get to cover some of that tomorrow.
I think there might be one of them in the top 8 today, right? So there's still a chance you'll get to see it little bit earlier. I think my favorite deck is also in this top 8, Lands. I do love Lands. That is I just love the style of it and how it plays out. And speaking of lands, here comes a Dryad Arbor coming down. Beautiful little 1/1 for 0 mana.
Got to put that one in your lands deck.
Value is what we're saying here. When you're top decking against your blue opponent, that is the exact card you want to be seeing.
I don't want to be seeing that card. I don't know about you. I will say I'm a really big fan of Zach's basic island choice. Love those. I don't know what they are, but I love those basics. Maybe Chad can tell us.
I need him to get pulled out a little bit more here before I can comment on that. Do you prefer full arts or like kind of OG type arts, as in with the half and half split?
OGs all day. OGs, baby.
I see. I think that's where we differ. I love a full art. I do like full art cards. And yeah, we're going to turn this into a race. 2 legislators getting turned sideways.
This is a really weird race, Will. 2 shredders, the second young wolf. It's like I don't know who's favorite. This is gonna be anyone's game.
While you're in a team event where everything's on the line for this game, are you going to get to keep playing Magic this today? Get yourself into that top 4. Give yourself a better shot of getting you and your team to the finals at the end of the year in a 16-player invite-only tournament. And yet we've got Young Wolves getting turned sideways and 1 free Legistrators. But we did have a quarter calling. Great draw for the turn. Being able to get this Endurance, which, as we spoke about, is a 3/4 with a reach. And it gets to block and get rid of one of these Legistrators. That's huge.
Phenomenal draw step here for Hunter. That's basically what you could have ever wanted. Interesting that you have the option to you see there's some mana left over here for Hunter. So had the option to court for Yawgmoth, still chose to go for Endurance here. And I think that's due to not only being able to eat one of the shredders to put you firmly ahead in the race, but also get rid of the graveyard. If you get something like Yawgmoth, maybe you worry about a card like Underworld Breach off the top of the deck. But now you essentially cut off one of Zach's best top decks here.
That's a huge decision. Like literally on the battlefield right now is the combo for Yawgmoths on it. We'll be able to keep turning burning for our deck till we get another Quarter Calling or the Blood Artist and then go off. And we decided against it. And oh my god, did we draw back-to-back chords?
We sure
No
did.
way is this happening. We've gone from the clutch of death to back ripping Quarter Calling, getting this on the battlefield. This is huge. And we don't need to even fire it off. Our board state is now bigger than our opponents. This race is fully in swing on our side.
Yeah, absolutely wild top decks. Was that an expressive iteration?
Crazy.
I can't tell, but I think it might be an expressive iteration. Well, this is just these top decks are absolutely insane. My goodness.
I would be jumping for joy so far. This is great. I'm glad that we get to bring it all to you here. I'm glad that everyone's watching. I hope you're enjoying this weekend, through. A lot of Magic to be played as we start seeing the Yawgmoth combo going through. And we're going to get the Legislator off the battlefield straight up. We're not even going to mess around with that before this starts reacting. Looks like we've got a couple of lands in hand. That's a dress down and a couple more lands.
Yeah, it looks like EI. I think there was just 3 lands. I didn't
One of
even
them is
see a
a
spell
redraw.
off of it. We're gonna play the fire yet. Yep, Aspire Bluff Canal. So that was a pretty bad expressive iteration. One player top decks back-to-back Court of Callings, one player expressive iterations into 3 lands. I would say it's about even.
Okay, we get a redraw. Didn't get a good look. It might be a bauble.
And the question is, do we
Uh,
have lethal in play for Hunter? Yeah, more than lethal,
one,
right? Two,
two,
four,
three, four,
six,
five.
nine.
No, it's not
Not
lethal
quite.
yet.
Not quite. Well, no, the proliferate, right?
Oh
I think
yeah,
proliferate Xaxes.
proliferate will be it to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, exactly. Dress down in hand doesn't. Oh, this has been a game and a half.
It has.
Do we have?
Crazy game.
We were so close to calling it,
I know.
like 4 turns ago. This has
Well,
been absolutely next level.
there was that spot where where Zach kind of emptied out his hand and both players were in top deck mode. And, as when you're in top deck mode, drawing back to back Court of Callings is a pretty good spot. And that one decision where Hunter chose to get the endurance over the Yawgmoth, I think really, really got paid off there, being able to take care of the graveyard. Again, if Zach had found something like another World Breach and that endurance didn't get gotten, this could have been a much, much different game. But we
Here
do
we
see the
go. End of
proliferate and
turn.
lethal on board.
We're going to dress down. End of turn. Draw. Hope we hit an unholy hit. It's more land, and we're going to get the handshake. Hunter, guys, to take that down for his team, advance them to top 4. That is crazy. That game is amazing. That is going to go in the highlight reel for ages. Whoa. What did we just see? What did we just witness?
Wow.
Oh, I'm speechless. And that's
Yeah.
hard to do.
That was a game. Yeah, like you said, I'm also speechless. We got to see both players in top deck mode. Really, really just came down to top decks at that point. And yeah, 2 Quarter Callings better than express them into 3 lands.
That's insane, but we get to see more of that Yawgmoth. So congratulations to them. Commiserations to the other team. But they do get to walk away with a load of points, a bit of money, enough to get a really nice dinner tonight, and they get to chill out and potentially come back tomorrow and play some more legacy action. I'm gonna ask our production team: is there any more games this round, or are we gonna go to a quick break? Okay, cool. Looks like we're gonna have a real quick break, and we'll be back real shortly of those semis. So make sure you stick around. We'll see you all shortly.